Hi.
Hey there, can you hear me?
I can hear you. It's funny. I'm watching you on two screens. So it's like I have you on my screen and then I have your live going over here.
Nice, yeah. So you know I am indeed live. Be scrupulous in the language you use, and thank you for having me on.
Be scrupulous. I've heard you guys are like sailors on your show. I don't know what you're thinking happens over here, but that is actually, I'm going to start off asking this. Who are you talking to when you're live? Because I'm watching the YouTube stream and it's like, you're not even talking to those people. And then there's that other stream, which I think is Twitch. Okay. Also forgive me. I'm a little nervous because I'm a fan, but I'm also like a 49-year-old pothead and I'm totally tech challenged. So a lot of the things I've learned so many things from you. Like I write down little terms and have to look them up, but are you talking to the Twitch people?
I am tragically permanently banned from Twitch. I have my own website, and the chat that's on my screen gets pulled from there. And thank you.
Oh, okay. Well, how you got banned?
Yeah.
I don't know why that surprises me. I mean, with the levels of censorship that are going now. So the main thing is that I really dig you. I think that you're extremely bright. I'm definitely, I think, old enough to be your mother. And you remind me of Hitch. And I don't know if that's somebody that you've ever read any Christopher Hitchens. I would think you have, that you're familiar with who that is.
I am familiar with who that is. I'm not the most avid reader, so I'm afraid that, no, I never actually cracked open a book.
Okay, if you ever get a chance to watch any of his debates, like back in the day, like there was nobody better. Like I watched the debates of his. He was very what do you call it? He was very inspirational to me back in the day. Before the whole internet atheism versus Christianity trend moved more towards woke versus reactionary trend, you know? Yeah. So what is the deal with, so I Google you, which is never really the best thing to do, you know, but it's a good starting point, right? It's a starting point. And now I've only been following for maybe like 4 months or so, and you get a lot of hate. And I can't for the life of me figure it out. Like, I don't understand it. I don't understand it at all. Like, am I missing something? I feel like I'm in that Seinfeld episode where he likes this girl and nobody likes her and he can't figure out, like, what is wrong? Like, what is this? I read that you are, and this is a great quote. This is hilarious. This was from Reddit, so with a grain of salt. Liberal anti-communist leftist drops racial slurs and defends child porn. Now, so
I guess that sums it all up right there, doesn't it?
So that's the kind of stuff. And then this one is funny. It says Ben Shapiro of the liberals.
I wish I was that successful.
No, you don't want to be. To me, if someone says Ben Shapiro of the liberals, then I'm picturing someone who's incredibly obtuse but talks very fast to make other people think that they're smart. You don't need to be that.
I was picturing a millionaire, but hey, you know,
that's pretty interesting from a socialist.
They probably didn't mean it in the flattering way. So there's two ways that I can answer this. There's like an incredibly like arrogant way, and then there's a slightly more. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Before I get into this, could you introduce yourself to my community, please?
I can. Oh my God, I forgot that. Like, I'm on your show. So my name is Jen Perelman. I'm an attorney and an activist. Don't hold the attorney part against me. I'm not really a practicing attorney. And I live in South Florida. And last year, I challenged Debbie Wasserman Schultz in the congressional primary here, in our Democratic primary. And we have developed quite a platform and a movement. And our whole campaign was based on transforming politics into service. So that's what this podcast is. It's about transforming politics into service and getting representatives that are actually accountable to people and not corporations. So that's really what we're about. And at a local level, we're active, very service oriented with volunteers doing things like food distributions. And we have a community garden that we're working on. And just really this idea that representation starts from serving your community. And that's really what I'm about and what my little thing is that I'm doing. And our podcast is really just about educating people. Like, this is probably going to be the first time for a lot of people that watch me to see you.
And I imagine the feeling is mutual, but I'm delighted to be speaking with you, especially since you've opened up with. Normally, when people ask me questions, it's like, "How do you deprogram alt writers?" But I'm glad you've hit me up with the Ben Shapiro of the liberals, communist liberal child porn. Yeah, yeah.
It was so fun. I was reading it and I was like writing down these quotes. It's so funny.
It's like, interesting. Yeah, going on like 4chan.org/poll. Like, yeah, it's a lot of really interesting stuff here in this guy.
I'd like to talk about you defending child porn. It doesn't seem like something that would be up your alley.
Yeah, it is weird. It's a weird accusation, right? So,
well, it's a straw man.
Well, I would imagine it's bordering on outright slander, but however you try to characterize it. So the issue that I've found is that I think that how do I put this? Because I get different types of hate. A lot of people online, especially content creators, are basically, and I'm not trying to be cynical here. This is what we try to do. We try to monetize a certain range of discourse by presenting a set of opinions and doing it well and broadening our audience, and we want to get people behind us. That's great. Some people try to take the advocacy route where they try to push for some agenda of their own, and I think that's wonderful. I think that's generally how it works. However, it's usually very detrimental to build a platform that is based on antagonizing other platforms, because when you do that, you lock out certain sections of other people's audiences, and they develop like a hatred towards you that propagates within their own community, and you have people repeating iteration after iteration after iteration after iteration of the initial claim, and eventually you realize that people dislike you for things that you've never done or never believed. A lot of the people who are on the far right hate me just because I'm not a Nazi. It's one of my political beliefs. Not a Nazi. They don't like that. They're not a fan. So they say a lot of really wacky stuff too. And then a lot of people on the left hate me because I'm very open with being critical of disagreements that I have with them.
Yeah, I would think that. And then anytime you say anything with any sort of like confidence, it's you're being an arrogant prick. Like you're being like this sort. I mean, it's unfortunate, but the few times where I've heard you talking to someone, I find you incredibly patient with a level of ignoramus that I haven't seen in a long time. So like the few times I've heard you talking to people, I think you're incredibly like nice to people that I would just basically be like, oh yeah, you're an idiot. Goodbye. I just cannot, talk to some people.
The worst engagements that I have with people and with communities are with people that I've never actually talked to. All the people that I beef with most online haven't showed up on my stream. And after I talk with a person on stream, usually that settles a lot of the antagonism. Because once you actually cut through it, I'll give you an example. Hakim's is a communist on YouTube. I disagree with him on some stuff. Great. His community despised me, and he made videos shit-talking me. But then he said, hey, why don't I come on this guy's stream? He came on, we had a great talk, and everything's died down since then. I love that. I wish everyone would talk to me because I feel like there'd be way less hate out there,
And I talk to everyone. So obviously, I know you went on Tim Pool's show. I went on Tim Pool's show, and I, of course, got a lot of crap just for the very nature of going there.
Right.
And granted, I'm getting crap for even talking to you because this is what people do now. They pick a team and you're not allowed to talk to anybody else on any other team. And if you do, then you could get canceled. Like that's just this whole, it's ludicrous. So they prefer people. And I happen to say it's unfortunate, but lefties love their echo chambers so much. And they do not like to step out of their echo chamber. And I am someone that I've already said what I need to say to them. I don't need to be speaking to a choir. I need to be educating people that are unfamiliar with what we're doing. I don't need cheerleading.
Well, that's always been my argument. If you claim to be like an avatar of progressive politics online, or you're a socialist or whatever, and all you're doing is taking lefties who are already lefties and then getting their Patreon bucks, you're not doing anything. Wait, can I swear?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm not monetized. It's beautiful.
You're not doing shit for the movement. You're doing nothing. You're doing less than nothing because you're taking away time and energy from people that they could be spending somewhere else or doing something else for personal gain. Now, I don't think that's necessarily harmful. There's nothing wrong with being a leftist and catering to leftists, but it's necessary. It is politically absolutely necessary that there be people who are willing to reach out across lines and engage in the admittedly messy business of trying to convert or de-radicalize people. And that will mean contacting and communicating and being on good terms with people whose politics you disagree with, having communities that are a little more tumultuous because you can't be as ideologically homogenous. And some people don't like that, but that's a job that needs to be done, man. You can't not do that. Do you want to lose?
I know. Well, sometimes I look at the left and I think, well, this is why we can't have nice things. And this is why they continue to lose, because they're more interested in this purist principles and cancel culture than actually working on particular issues. And I tend to approach everything issue by issue and build coalitions around whatever that issue is. So for example, down here in Florida, we had this big thing with a private company wanting to drill in the Everglades. And I met, which is obviously a really bad idea. We live on limestone. It would affect our drinking water. There's a myriad of problems with it. And I met somebody who's a Republican and local Republican organization out at this protest. And we have since formed an alliance that has led to building citizens election audit. That's a bipartisan citizens election audit to oversee our county elections. So there are certain things to be gained from reaching across. And it isn't even complicated. It's just if you look at it by issue and not by label, and that's something that people are so hung up on. And I heard you just talk about that today, is about labels and clicks, and that people love to have a team and they love to just have they love it. And it's like a color war. And that's how I see the duopoly. It's a color war that isn't based on any real substance, because neither party actually has like a living, breathing platform that they're working toward. They're just fighting to fight. It's almost like obstructionism for the sake of obstructionism, and nobody's doing anything because right now they have it how they want it. And this is where we could talk about, like, how do we get from this completely predatory capitalist place where we are into something that is livable for people without being said, oh, you're being an incrementalist. You're not going fast enough.
The thing that bothers me the most. So politics is all about coalition building, and coalition building is all about finding things with other groups you agree with and working towards some kind of collective action. You don't need to agree with them on everything. I've always been a big fan of tactical unity. I don't think you need to be in complete ideological lockstep with another person in order to work together towards the same goals. There are limits to that. There are people, for example, who believe that people like Tucker Carlson is an ally to the working class. But my follow-up to that would be like, no, you're falling for like the rhetoric of the show. He's very obviously pro-oligopoly and racist and a bunch of other bad stuff. But ultimately, I think like one of the biggest problems we have with the discourse in this country is this culture war nonsense. Now, I care about racism. I care about transphobia, sexism. I am invested in these issues. I was, at least, a very obnoxious woke scold online for a good portion of my political engagement. I'm still invested in these issues. But my problem is when people promote these edge case cultural issues as like the thing people need to focus on, because it stokes division and hatred, and it prevents people from agreeing on things that they should all collectively be able to get behind. Action against Wall Street after the 2008 financial crisis was very popular amongst both parties. But what do we get? Instead, we get arguments over what? Trans bathroom bills, whether or not the city of Portland still exists after BLM lit it on fire. Like, these are meaningless conversations, but they take up 90% of discourse now. So we can't agree with people and we can't coalition build.
Yeah. I think a lot of the issues, though, that are put out like that are obviously done intentionally to keep us from uniting with the people on the other side that share same values. Like, I look at this whole country as having this sort of populist swelling uprising, and it's happening on the left and it's happening on the right. And the question is, can the people of those movements, at least the ones that aren't too far gone on either side, come together and have an actual labor party and a working party? Because that's what we're missing in this country. We have no labor party. And that is, ultimately what we have a problem. We have two corporate parties. So, this is not something that's just going to fix itself within these parties. And yet getting a third party is seemingly near impossible.
Oh, yeah, for sure. The Democratic Party probably isn't ever going to be a vessel for real working class animus. We need to get rid of first past the post voting if a third party is ever going to be electorally viable. If we ever got rid of that, though, the gate is open, the horses have taken off. If we ever get rid of first past the post voting, we massively expand the potential for like populist action in this country. So I'm really, really interested in getting that done. Until then, I'm skeptical of people who push for it now. Like we have that, what's it called? The People's Party, I think.
Yeah, the Movement for a People's Party, but that's not going to be their name, right? Like that's just what they're formulating it right now. Technically, I'm on the board for their legal issues, and so I get some of the emails. But yeah, that's what they're trying to, and I'm somewhat skeptical.
It feels like a bit of a pitfall, where you're getting people really, really invested. So right now, mathematically, third parties can't work in this country because of first past the post voting. That's not like cynical liberalism. It's a mathematical fact. It's not going to happen
Right.
because of the spoiler effect, which is just, it's just how voting systems work when they're first past the post. So if you get super, super, super invested in that stuff before it's viable, I think you set people up for a set of really unrealistic expectations for what can be done, and they either get burnt out after it doesn't work, which really, really sucks, or they continue fruitlessly with this project that's never going to bear fruit because the groundwork wasn't laid, you know?
Yeah, and you see that in so many different factions. So this is a little bit, don't think I'm like a creepy stalker person, but over the past month or so, when you say something that I think is interesting, I write it down on this little Post-it note. So like I have all these little Post-it notes of things that I thought were interesting that I wanted to
I was worried it was just one Post-it note for a second. I was
No,
damn, I only say that little.
No, I got multiple Post-it notes.
Nah, hit me up. Absolutely.
Right.
I used to do I'm sorry. No. I just want to say, by the way, I did this engagement with other creators all the time, and I still do. So yeah, I completely get it.
No, it's great, and obviously, we're just trying to grow and get to even where I can be monetized if we want to be monetized. But one of the things you talk about now, you were talking about this in reference to tankies, which, by the way, I had to look up since watching you. I had no idea what a tanky was, no idea what a turf was, no idea. This is like when you're dealing with. I'm not quite a boomer, but I'm X. I'm Generation X, so I'm kind of almost there.
No, I am very always online, so I completely understand that. I apologize for being dipped so hard into that lingo, I guess.
No, it's a combination of that, I think, and that gamer stuff, that whole gamer element of you and your ilk and those people. Like, to me, you guys are basically what I remember when I would walk into the comic store and the guys were playing Dungeons and Dragons, except for now it's online.
Yeah, we're I mean, hey, D&D is back in vogue these days. If you're ever interested in a really fantastic social experience, you should get into that. You can be part of the in crowd.
I can understand it. I think, are any of those people that do that stuff, are any of them cannabis users? Like, is there any crossover with the cannabis users and the people in those gaming communities?
I would say the vast majority of people in those communities, are absolutely,
really?
Yeah, I'd say so.
But and they're young then too, because like I feel like every day more and more brain cells. Like I have this theory that there's this finite amount of space, right? And so if I learn something new, something else is gone, right? It's out, like it's gone. And it could be my kid's appointment next week. It could be, something that I have to get done. So like, I have to be selective of what I'm going to engage because limited brain cells.
I think perpetual inebriation would explain the behavior of my community for most issues.
Well,
so yeah.
And then maybe they'll like me. So anybody out there who's listening in Vosh World, check out Generational Change. We need watch hours. We need watch hours and we need subscribers on our YouTube channel. But so what you had said was you used this term non-pragmatic lefties. Mm-hmm. And I think that's an amazingly good category of people. And I don't even think the people you were thinking of in that category are the same people that I'm thinking of in that category. And yet it applies. Would you say that's just people that are just so stuck on principle, but they can't see the forest of the trees to get anything done?
Yeah, I don't even know if they understand the. Oh, sorry, I'm echoing on your end. I wasn't before though. Did something change?
No, you're fine.
Echo?
I don't hear it.
Oh, went away. Okay, cool. Whatever. No big deal. So this is a big issue that I have, where a lot of people think that the more radical you are or the more populist you are, it means that you don't have to understand the systems that you're complaining about anymore. That is very, very strange to me. Karl Marx is the world's most well-known critic of capitalism. Nobody else put in the effort and the time that he did to formulaically break down the economic system that he lived in, to present counter-arguments. He had to understand what he was talking about. If all of his counter-arguments had been unfounded, or if they had been just populist drivel, if it had just been like capitalism's bad because it's bad, nobody would have cared, nobody would have listened. Putting the effort in to understand these systems is the bedrock of critiquing them. So when I see people online who have no fucking idea how the American government works, no fucking idea how capitalism works, they levy criticisms that are at best ineffectual and are at worst makes the left look stupid, because it makes us all look like a bunch of doped up children who don't understand anything and just don't want to go to work that day or school, so we complain on Twitter. It's really frustrating for me.
Yeah. It's like the backseat drivers. That's what you deal with all the time. And the people that are out there actually doing work have to constantly deal with the criticism from the people that are sitting at their computers and just criticizing them
like,
and not doing anything.
It's cool to hate AOC now. It became cool to hate Bernie after he dropped out and endorsed Biden. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Bernie has done more than literally anybody, or maybe everybody, criticizing him combined, but now it's trendy to hate him because he sold out. Like, what are we doing?
Oh, well, it's just everybody picks a team and they stick on that team and they like to fight. People like to fight. Why would somebody think about how ludicrous it is to gang up on AOC? Now, I don't know her. I haven't met her. I'm not one of her constituents, so she doesn't owe me a damn thing. But from where I'm sitting, she's a young woman who's been in representative for 2 years, and people are cursing her out and calling her a sellout because she didn't do the exact thing that they wanted her to do strategically, not based on principle, but strategically. And if that's not shooting your own self in the foot, I don't know what is.
Yeah, it's so strange because, like, I hope these people realize if they were elected representatives, which gives you a lot of power and most importantly, a big speaking platform. That's what I care about. AOC's one vote amongst hundreds, but she has a huge platform. If you're in that position, I hope a lot of the socialists criticizing her realize they wouldn't be able to do anything more. If they were in, what do they think? Like, you can't abolish capitalism as a single representative of the U.S. House. You have to play the game, because if you don't, you get censored or you get kicked out or nobody listens to you. You lose legitimacy and you lose the power that you gained. I think that AOC actually does from what I've seen, I think a pretty good job. Threading that needle. Not perfect, but I think she does a really, really good job. Bernie did a fantastic job, and a lot of people listened to him because of it. If he just came off like some senile, Democrat-hating, obsequious, ancient, trapped in the Soviet Union mentality socialist, nobody would have listened to him. But he was smart, and because of that, millions of people were moved to the left. We should learn from that.
Yeah, I agree. He's done more for the left in the past 5 years than was done in like the previous 40, which is amazing. Like, and when people say crap about him, I'm like, we wouldn't even be talking about Medicare for all on a daily basis if it weren't for Bernie Sanders. And so, but then you'll hear, but incrementalism. And I always try to explain to people there's a big difference between incrementalism and progress. Progress happens day by day. It doesn't happen overnight. That's just not how it works. Not the same thing as settling for incrementalism. You have to do things so that it can actually happen. People don't understand economics, and they'll sit there and start talking all sorts of stuff about what should be done, and they know nothing. So it's very frustrating. And then you come off and people think you look arrogant because you're telling people that you don't know what you're talking about when they don't know what they're talking about.
You have no idea how many times I've had that conversation where somebody criticizes Bernie or AOC or just generally makes a fool of themselves. And I say, okay, well, what would you do? And they're like, I would build dual power and I would do on-the-ground direct action. Do you have any fucking idea what either of those things means?
No, they don't.
They often don't. And also, none of these things are mutually exclusive to any of the other means that I generally advocate for. And also, it's easier to do direct action if you don't live under fascism. The Attorney General under Trump was considering sedition charges for BLM protesters. That is not an environment I want to do direct action in, okay? Let's turn the heat down a little bit, or like at least reach for the dial before complaining that we're selling out to incrementalist liberalism. Like, there are real things to be fought for. Not everything is a cynical, gesture of conciliation.
Yeah, we're having a real problem here in Florida. We just had introduced House Bill 1, a resolution which essentially is going to criminalize protesting, and in a way that people who, let's say, remember in Charlottesville when the woman got run over with the car through the protesters, essentially this bill will legalize that. It'll render people not responsible for crimes committed against people that are protesting in the street. And that's what this is going to do.
Yeah, just yesterday, Florida lawmaker looks to set lower minimum wage for felons, other hard-to-hire employees. Dude, Florida sucks. What the fuck?
Oh, yeah, Florida. Well, and this happens repeatedly. So what happens in our state is we will get together as a state and have a ballot initiative, and we'll have something passed. For example, we passed that returning citizens that were previously incarcerated should get their voting rights back. It passed with a clear majority was fine. Then what happens is our state legislature decides that they don't like what we did as a electorate, and then they start introducing bills to taper those amendments. So they did it with the returning citizens amendment, and now they're doing it with our $15 minimum wage. This guy actually wants to take certain people out of the minimum wage bill. So in other words, if you're, I think it was 21 and under or previously incarcerated, it's not necessary for you to get the $15 an hour minimum wage. You're not subject to that. It's quite disgusting. I am somewhat hopeful that won't go anywhere, that at this point, it's just kind of more just the idea of it just being put out there just to be like incendiary. I don't think it will go anywhere.
Express open contempt for human life.
Yes. Yes, just to be mean, just to be a dick, just to be like, oh, the majority of people want this. Nah, screw them. We don't care what the majority of people want. That is Florida's legislature.
I wonder too sometimes. It's difficult. I don't want to come down too hard on this because I know a lot of online leftists are fed a lot of misinformation and they legitimately believe the Democrat and Republican parties are the same. Like that's what they're taught, They go on, they watch their YouTube videos and they either present half-truths or misinformation or a very selective set of the whole, and they come to believe that the two are basically the same. But if you are aware of what Biden will do and what Trump will do, and you don't think fighting for a Biden presidency is worth doing, I'm really suspect about your claim to caring about racial issues or class issues. I get really skeptical because there are a lot of people will be very seriously and legitimately harmed by a perpetuation of the Trump presidency, or would have been had he won.
Yes.
But a lot of people brush that over, and it really makes me wonder, how much are you into socialism because it's cool, and how much are you into socialism because you want to help the working class?
Yeah. Well, look, when it comes from the perspective, I am one of those people that I do see the parties the same in the sense that they're both completely corporate owned and they're both doing the bidding of special interests and corporations. However,
in that respect, that's totally true. Yeah.
And however, I did vote for Biden. I did it begrudgingly. I still get crap for it. That was the number one thing that all of Tim Pool's people kept calling me Karen. I was Karen that voted for Joe. I was like, I was Karen. So, but here's what this is the thing. I did it mean. It's me. I don't care. I could be a Karen. I actually feel bad for nice Karens, and I do know some nice Karens. But like, I voted for Joe Biden. My personal reason, it has to do with a personal friend that died from COVID. And I know, like, we all as a group in the progressive community down here, a lot of us gave our votes to that person, like posthumously. And so that might not make sense to anybody. I don't really care. But here's the thing I do know with certainty is that however many DACA kids there are, which is like 100 and something thousand, however many of the DACA kids, those are people whose lives are tangibly safer and better because somebody like Joe Biden is president. And so I understand when we say things like party-wise, philosophically, yeah, they are kind of the same. They don't stand for anything. They do the bidding of corporate donors. But in practicality, they're not the same because those people are now not fearing for their lives being ruined. And so that's a huge win for me. And even if that's the only thing, what if that's it? What if just those 100 and something thousand DACA people are the only people that truly benefit? I'm fine with that.
That's a lot of people. Yeah,
exactly.
And then you have COVID, and then you have like foreign policy and all the drone strikes that like Trump ramped up, and the war posturing with Iran right before he left the presidency.
See, that I don't think is going to get better. I think that's
may or may not
to get worse. I think we're going to start to see. I think if Hillary had won, we would have had boots on the ground in Syria like day one.
I don't know about that. Trump was pretty pro-war. At least
he tried
rhetorically.
Not to be. From my perspective, he went in there with a populist message that he was unable to deliver on or didn't care enough to deliver on. He went in there on a anti-trade deal, anti-war. That was what he campaigned on. Now, he didn't do those things. However, he didn't start any new wars, which is the first president in a while to not start new wars. Trust me when I tell you, I have no love for that man. Like, I don't think he was doing a great job. But Biden has not met a war he doesn't like. These people will spend the next, I'd say 6 months manufacturing consent to get us into Syria and Iran. And that's what I think we're going to be starting to see. And he also came out supporting Juan Guaido as the president of Venezuela.
That is true. I disagree with that, of course. I don't know. Trump always came off pretty pro-war to me. The stuff that he said about bombing terrorists' families, we're going to do like torture and worse. It seemed like he was perfectly comfortable ramping up militaristic tensions, even if he didn't put any boots on the ground. And not to mention the ramping up the Yemenis conflict. I would be okay with the reintroduction of troops into the Rojava region with Syria, because I thought that our presence there was one of the rare times we were actually doing good in the Middle East, because the Rojava project is something I support tremendously. We'll have to see. I do want to see, because we don't get caught up in the specifics. I do think that generally speaking, I think that the military involvement that the United States gets in is dictated by a much larger and much stronger set of socio-political trends than the presidency. I feel like the military-industrial complex is very much its own beast, much in the same way that corporate America is its own beast. And presidents, I mean, you can spin the wheel, you know? You can spin it left or right, and you can pull away or you can get closer. But I think the motion, absent radical change, continues onward.
Yeah, they're the same in that way, because they both serve, look, I have a Democratic representative. She takes money from several big military industrial complex corporations. You can't have people being funded by that and then somehow expect that they're not going to be supportive of those companies. Like, that's just completely, that's moronic.
Yeah, of course. But the difference is, of course, that there are Democrat voters, I mean, who do care about fighting corporate oligopoly, who do care about bringing peace to the world. Whereas I feel Republicans are usually too they're too locked in like the myth of the meritocracy and too locked in American exceptionalism to meaningfully challenge those systems. Not all of them, though. There are Republicans, and I've talked to some of these people, who I feel like would be excellent progressives if they hadn't been led astray on all that aforementioned culture war bullshit, you know? If they didn't think that BLM was coming down to burn their specific suburb, or trans people are gonna like corrupt their children or something. I feel like if it wasn't for that brain poison, they would actually be like pretty awesome progressives, you know?
Yeah, well, it's funny you say something about trans, because everything I've ever heard you mention is extremely supportive and not at all remotely threatening or hateful. So why would anybody refer to you as a transphobe? Like, I cannot. What did I miss, like, within the past few years before I found you? What have I missed?
You missed a lot of really good content. Nah, there was one. Okay, do you know who ContraPoints is?
No.
She's a really wonderful video essayist and philosopher.
Okay.
She's fantastic. You should check out her channel. A lot of respect for her. Anyway, she gets in drama now and again because she has a lot of people who dislike her because she's also outspoken. And there were people who were accusing ContraPoints, who is a trans woman, of being a transphobe because of some language in some tweet. It was really esoteric stuff. And to be honest, I forget everything that sparked this, but I got really, really angry at the people who were trying to like cancel ContraPoints. And I said something like, there's this crowd of like mentally ill, always online, like trans kids who are always attacking ContraPoints or something like that. And the mentally ill was a descriptor of the people trying to cancel ContraPoints, not trans people itself.
Transphobes, not that they were trans. Right,
but it was really bad language, like, obviously, and I deleted that stream too, but that thing circulated because a Nazi clipped that stream together to make it sound as bad as possible, and then it got shared progressive circles, and now a lot of people just call me a transphobe. So
yeah, well, I'm familiar about that. I was canceled down here. I'm actually in our local political mean girls clique down here in Broward. There's a whole group of these like politicos that do the Dem clubs and all that stuff, and they canceled me as racist. It's been
maybe you shouldn't have been racist then.
It's been about 2 years. And so now there's this like group of people, like, the telephone game where one person tells the next person. So there's these people that just repeat that talking point that don't even know what the story is or what they're referencing. And I'm just a racist. Actually, no, I'm a white feminist.
Well, I get called racist too. So we're in good company, you know?
That's really cool. I know. You know what it is? It's haters gonna hate, man. Haters gonna hate.
Well, just one of the big issues is that very few people approach online criticism in a healthy or productive way. There are people online who are fucking disgusting and should be made fun of at every possible opportunity. Some of those people are on the left too. I don't just mean a partisan thing, but a lot of people don't put any effort into scrutinizing the insults they levy, which is really unfortunate because the internet's already pretty toxic as it is. And when you're repeating a bunch of like half or quarter truths about a person who might otherwise be on your side politically, you do a pretty big
Exactly.
disservice to what might otherwise be an effort at bringing people together. I'll give you one really quick example, okay? There's this other video essayist, a leftist, called Philosophy Tube, and they did a tweet where they quote tweeted something. It was something like Trump finally allows transition, like the transition team for Joe Biden, you know?
Right.
But the title just said Trump allows transition. So Philosophy Tube quote tweeted it and said, "Congratulations to her. Wouldn't have expected it. Great joke. Get it? Trump transition, blah." A bunch of people got mad at him for it. Some people were saying he was a transphobe, and he's like the most trans-friendly person I've ever seen in this platform. So it's like when you cut off people who could otherwise be allies to your movement, you're doing a pretty big disservice, not just to yourself, but other people who might be vulnerable in ways that could be addressed by having powerful people on your side.
Yeah. So I see somebody, they're asking who I am, and somebody said, I am not, I just want to clarify, I am not Crystal Ball. Although I,
you know, look
hey,
like her.
At least she's attractive, and so it's not like insulting to be called Crystal Ball. But I guess it's like, oh, woman lefty must be Crystal Ball. No, I am not Crystal Ball. My name is Jen Perelman. So how would you, like, if you were, and I'm not into labels. I mean, I've heard you use the term libertarian socialist, and I'm starting to think that's me, like I'm almost like, I think that's me. I think it might be me, but I'm not, I generally don't like to use those labels because then people will sort of, keep you in that pigeonhole, and then they're going to think that they'll ascribe a whole bunch of characteristics to you that may not necessarily fit. So, but what is your like take on what would be not utopia, but like what would be the ideal for you? If you could have, like, if you could wave your magic wand and the government would function how, it would be ideal, what would that look like?
It's really difficult for me because I don't know if I believe in ideals. The best that I can imagine, because we're very much locked in our own imaginations, is a society with as little implicit coercion as possible, where everybody can live a decent life, and where we effectively balance the standard of living everyone is provided with the expectation that everyone works. That is to say, we don't compel everyone to work, but we find a way to provide for people's needs in spite of that. I think the best way to do that is a highly democratic and decentralized socialist government with a limited market sector. That's my opinion. And I think the goal should be that we should make these obvious steps forward. And once we arrive at the point we're at after we were finished with the obvious improvements, then we get to speculate about the broader or the end game. Though I don't think there is an end game to society, really. I think there will always be conflict. And I like that to an extent, too. The myth of the end of history is very much like a liberal conception. But I like the idea of, at least at the moment, pushing for worker cooperatives, democratic ownership of the means of production, finding ways to decommodify and democratize big industries that have really bad and harmful externalities, healthcare, energy, transportation, that kind of stuff. And we move further in that direction.
Healthcare, public education, and corrections are three things that should never be for-profit industries.
Easily,
and,
yeah.
Right. And yeah, there are others, like, right, sure, like transportation. I mean, but like the ones to me that like most impact people's lives are those three in the sense that we have like an entire population that are incarcerated as basically slaves, that we have allowed to, and we have people that profit off of this. It's really the most disgusting thing that I can think of. That and healthcare are the two most disgusting profit motive industries that we have.
The reason I like the term libertarian socialist is because to a lot of people, it's an oxymoron. Libertarianism means no government, all corporations. Socialism means all government, no corporations. Of course, that's not what either of those things really means. But when I present that term, a lot of people get their curiosity as to the perceived oxymoron makes them a little more open to understanding my ideas. Also, a lot of people think socialism is authoritarianism. I disagree entirely. So I emphasize the pro-democracy bit, to put it up front. But labels are generally toxic when it comes to online discourse anyway, so.
Yeah, you don't know. Like for me, when I hear libertarian socialist, so for me, when it comes to things like civil liberties, I'm I am an extremely live and let live. I am very constitutional amendment oriented. I am very strictly, free speech. I am an absolutist with a lot of those things. Like I am not, and that even includes the Second Amendment, which a lot of my lefty friends do not appreciate about me. But when it comes to economics and providing a social safety net for our citizens, I think that that is an imperative. I think that that is something that we have to do. So economically speaking, we are only as good as our weakest link. How people do not understand that we are not thriving when our citizenry is sick, unfed, and uneducated is beyond me. Like, I don't, like, how does that serve us?
Well, but a lot of people don't even talk about this. That's the thing. I think this has always been my position. If you can get everybody to agree on reality, most of us will agree on most of these big problems. Republicans and Democrats, leftists, whatever, you put them all together in a room. If they believe fundamentally the same things about reality, I think that most of them will agree, yeah, we should be paying our teachers more. Yeah, our education system is kind of fucked right now. Yeah, healthcare, not working. We got to do something there. I think it's really easy to agree on these issues. The problem is that we get fed so many... a lot of lefties say stuff like identity politics are a distraction from class issues. I caution that rhetoric because I don't think something like racism is a distraction. I think it is a real issue in and of itself, but it's often invoked as a distraction. And I think it has the same effect as one, where people who otherwise wouldn't disagree on a lot of really important stuff get hung up on these minor issues. Like, I know I mentioned this earlier, and I apologize if I'm rambling or harping on it, but like trans bathroom bills. When the fuck did this become something worthy of national discourse? We have a homeless crisis. We have the worst healthcare system of any developed country. We pour trillions of dollars into our military, and this is what people are talking about for like 5 months. The whole conservative propaganda outlet was telling you that your daughter would be raped in a bathroom because of trans people. No evidence, no backup, nothing. All the evidence points to the contrary. But this is what we argue about. It's such a waste of time, you know?
Yeah, it's so funny to me, the bathroom thing in particular. I remember I cannot wrap my head around, first of all, where do people think that the trans community has been going to the bathroom all along? Or do they just think that these people just poof appeared out of nowhere and now all of a sudden they need a place to go to the bathroom?
They think they brought the shit bucket with them. They thought the trans people had the shit bucket and now they want into the real people bathrooms. You know?
Like, we can't let them there. And the other thing is I'd like to point out, and this is something, I am very clear on this and I'll say it a million times. I do not know a single woman, an adult woman, who has not been violated in some way. Now, it is a very wide spectrum. It could be anything from just offensive jokes all the way to forcible rape. I do not know a single woman that has not been somehow just violated, okay? And yet, it's never happened in a bathroom. So what my point is that the idea that there is going to be some boogeyman hanging out in the bathroom with the wrong genitalia waiting to get you is ludicrous. If somebody wants to hurt you and violate you, they'll do it. It's not going to be in a public bathroom. So there's no logical connection.
Yeah, and it's already illegal to assault people in bathrooms. It doesn't matter if you're the gender of the right bathroom. You're still illegal. It's you say like, all these women have been violated in some way. Of course, the story is the same for me. This is a really, really common thing that happens. But it's like, then you get the discourse about like women getting like raped by trans women or whatever. And it's like, oh, well, that doesn't really happen. But if you care about rape so much, there's a lot of like really obvious stuff we could do to improve women's health, like testing rape kits and like Title IX, like doing more in like universities, and they don't give a fuck about that. And then like Muslim people come to Europe, and you have some very high profile like grooming gang instances, which are a fraction of the total number of sexual assaults committed in these European countries. And then we're like, hey, like maybe we could talk about like rape in general. Maybe there's like a patriarchy thing there. Nope, only when Muslims do it. It's like, fuck, man. What are we talking about?
Yeah. Well, I think, look, and I am not one that often will play the gender card or the sort of everybody's a misogynist and I don't feel that. But just like we live in a very white supremacist foundation of our society, the same thing is said in terms of a patriarchy. And so there are so many things on a daily basis that people, even non-intending to do something, we're just part of that system. I mean, personally, I had a boss that thought it was fun to come up behind me and push his parts against my back and rub my shoulders when I was sitting at my desk, which I didn't all too appreciate. And then when I complained about it, then he just started being a total asshole to me. So like I've had like things happen over the years that it's just part of our life. Like to not accept that women get violated is just ridiculous. However, that's not the same thing as playing that card all the time. Like everything is not a sex issue. Everything is not a race issue. Everything is not that. But those things are extremely prevalent because our whole society is based on them. So that's sort of how I see it.
I think a lot of people care about issues they're told to care about, you know? I think that it's not, I don't even think it's like an overt sexism thing. I just think that if a person goes online and they hear stories about crazy feminazis with their false rape accusations and how Democrats are trying to redefine woman or whatever, they just shove all these issues to the side. But if you sat them down, like you really sat them down and talk with them about that, I think they'd agree on almost everything. And that's one of the reasons why I'm looping it back around. That's one of the reasons why I am happy about a Biden presidency. Because for all of the corporate oligopoly bullshit, when Biden goes up to talk, generally speaking, he talks about things that are actually happening, like healthcare or, you know, climate change. When Trump goes up there, you have no fucking idea what he could be talking about anything. Suburbs burning down, Mexican rapists, or like using AT-AT walkers to traverse the border to go and attack like El Paso. Like it could be anything, you know? So at least maybe we can focus our discourse on more pressing issues now from like an activist angle. I mean, not necessarily in the purview of electoral politics.
Yeah, I mean, look, and I've seen you acknowledge this too, and we do all the time. Electoral politics is just one tool of many, and it's and given the way that it's stacked up right now and the way that the corporate duopoly owns it, it's not necessarily the easiest mechanism we have. I mean, we're chipping away at it. Like that's how I see it. It's like we're chipping away at this wall, and eventually there should be, if things progress how they're progressing, there will be more of us than there are of them, and at that point you'll see it shift. And people who want people like AOC or Ilhan Omar to just go like, you know, storming the front stage, that's just not how things work.
Well, it'd be pretty base, though.
It would be cool. Look, if instead of the man with the water buffalo hat, it was Ilhan Omar standing up there, like, you know, holding court, I'd be psyched. You know, like maybe that would be a little bit more interesting.
She would have gotten fucking torn apart by that crowd. She was shoot to kill, okay? Easily. She and Pelosi.
I have so much respect for her. I've never met her either. And yet, you know, and I always think these people that are shit talking her, this is a woman who spent 4 years in a Somalian refugee camp. Do you really think she's going to be scared of your nonsense talk? Like, really? Can you imagine what that would be like to be in a Somalian refugee camp for 4 years? I just
no, not even slightly. I do relate to her in one thing, though. Like me, most of the bullshit said about her online is completely detached from reality. I go online, I see the shit people say about me, and then I check the responses to her Twitter account, and they're all saying stuff like she married her brother, and she personally drove the plane into the 9/11 tower, and I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, you know, there you go. I guess it goes all ways.
Yes, devil's advocate. She did spend 4 years in a Somalian refugee camp. Someone on here is saying that, so I don't know if they're talking to me or you because I'm challenged, but someone said about having Kyle Kalinske come on. If anybody can get through to Kyle Kalinske, please, by all means, forward my number. You know, that's not something that I could just call up Kyle and say, hey, Kyle, want to come on the show?
I know Kyle. I could.
You know Kyle? I would. Oh my God. Now him, I've been watching for years, like for years and years. And I like a whole bunch of different takes. Like I like different, you know, stuff, but all of the people that I watch have this, the one thing that they have is that they're based in a reality, and it's a reality that's based on facts. And that's generally what I look for when I follow people, you know, and generally you'll give different sides. You'll say, this is something I believe, but arguably this, and this. Like, it's not just, like standing on a soapbox and yelling. It's actually thoughtful analysis of where we are and what we could do to improve that. And I think that that's a big difference. And when I'm watching someone and all they're doing is just yelling and screaming, that doesn't make me want to work with you or talk about stuff or no.
A lot of people accuse me of being in that camp.
Really?
Ben Shapiro.
Like this punchy teddy bear looking kind of guy. Like I don't get that at all.
When people actually talk to me, I try to be really charitable to them. If for no other reason than because it sets up dunks better later. If they're a complete like hack case and it's better to make fun of them than to be nice to them, being nice to them in the beginning at least sets it up better. You know, like you give them the rope to hang them with. But I really do try to be There's an issue on the internet. I mean, I guess it's everywhere, really, not just the internet, but people want quick and easy answers to everything. I think that it's far more rewarding to explore the question than to just be given an answer. It's more important to be given the tools necessary to understand the answer yourself, at the very least. And that's one of the problems that I have with so many of the people that I talk to. I realize after like one or two questions that I ask them, if we disagree on something, they don't know how to follow it up. They have their answers, but they have no idea how they arrived at those answers. They were just given them. They didn't arrive at them themselves. So it's kind of sad. It's like I'm shadowboxing with the content creator that they watch the most, you know?
Yeah. Did you study philosophy in college?
Just I think one or two beginners courses.
Really?
Nothing
Because
serious.
I was a philosophy minor.
Oh,
I
nice.
took oh yes. I mean, like, I think I took an entire course on Kantian ethics. Like, I mean, I got deep in the weeds on that, but it's been so many years that a lot of it is just gone. Like I said, new things come in, old things go out, and it's
Do you
really
still
hard.
uphold the categorical imperative?
I kind of do.
Based.
I kind of do. But I try to be a little bit more gray than black and white. I'm trying to be a little bit more gray than black and white, but it's not easy for me to do that, because when it comes to things like when we're talking about morality, it's not gray. Policies can be gray. Morality is pretty clear. Anything that hurts people, bad. And you know what I mean? Like, it's not complicated. You can do what you want so long as it doesn't hurt someone else. Once you're hurting other people, then we can't be doing that anymore.
Yeah, what is right and wrong is super easy. It's how do we do the right thing and prevent the wrong thing from happening? That's insanely hard. But like, yeah. That's my feeling. When I was a kid, I thought like Democrats good, Republicans bad. That was my thought process. And I grew up a little bit. I'm in high school, and I thought, actually, there are real shades of gray about what both sides pursue. It's really like the answer's in the middle.
Yeah.
And then I get older from that, and I realize, no. Being on the left is just good. Being on the right, for whatever reason you're on the right, usually just means you're in favor of bad things. Through malice or ignorance, bad things. So yeah, the real nuance is how to deal with that, I guess, or how to cope with living in that.
When you went on Tim Pool, it's like it's hard for me because, and I like him. He was really nice. There are definitely things that we agree on for sure, but yet his audience is a whole different animal to me. Like, it's a whole different, like, it's weird that there's like these parallel existences in the world that we are living. Our facts are different. Our information, we are living in, like, there's a bizarro world living alongside our world, and they see it that we're the bizarro world and and that's really difficult right now. And a lot of people, you could call it, fake news or whatever the reasons are for why people are not getting information, but we are living in a world where there are two dialogues, right? Two sets of dialogues going. And when you try to cross over, it's very difficult to cross over. Like, you can talk to people that are within your universe, and maybe the people that are in your universe on a spectrum might come a little bit more one way or another. But there are people that are in an entirely different universe.
Yeah, and it's terrifying. Yeah, because how do you make arguments with those people? I recently talked with a guy called Doug Tenneple. He's an animator. He's actually extremely well known in the industry. And now he has a YouTube channel that's very, very prominent where he spreads borderline QAnon stuff, I had a conversation with him, and this guy would disagree with me on fact. On COVID cases. He said there are no excess deaths in 2020 compared to 2019, which I know isn't true. I Google it. I find the chart. I show him the chart, and he just denies it. Yeah. Like, right there. And it's like how do you, I don't know how to address that. It's like, it's actually a really effective strategy that the right has engaged in, like, collectively, because the more you distance your political base from reality, the easier it is to kind of lead them around by the nose, Yeah. I don't know what to do with that group anymore. It feels harder and harder to pull people over to the left from the right. Just 5 years ago, the right on YouTube were like skeptics, They were like anti-SJW, anti-feminist types. But they weren't anywhere near this far away from reality. I don't know what to do. It's probably going to keep getting worse.
Yeah, I feel like it is. It's not just that we're parallel, but the lines are getting further apart, like as they're going out. So then the question comes, and this is where I am so not a math person, but this reminds me of something back in where if you do that long enough, do they eventually have to cross back around? Like if a line goes, if they're not parallel and they skew, at some point, it's almost like they come back around again. And I do see a lot of the political positions as much more round than linear. I see people that are, for example, people like Rand Paul, who I don't certainly would not always agree with on a myriad of things. But when he's talking about anti-interventionism and wanting to get out of wars and wanting to not be supporting a genocide in Yemen, yeah, I'm going to get behind that with him. So that then becomes an ally on certain issues. And so that's where I see it as, you know, whatever your reason is for being a particular position, maybe it's because you're so far to the right, it's this. And for me, it's I'm so far to the left. That's why I see it that way. But regardless, if we can get something done, then we should get something done. Like that's what I say.
Yeah. Tactical unity. Didn't AOC do that with Ted Cruz before Ted Cruz up and supported the attack in the Capitol? There was something, I forget what it was. They were working together on something. I don't mind. I'll work with anyone on anything as long as I think the consequences are good.
Yeah.
If there are like, we can play ball, you know. If there are like fascists and they're very prominent in America, hypothetically, and they want to work on anti-interventionism, that's something I'm willing to work with them on. Absolutely, unquestionably. Like, why not? As long as you aren't legitimizing their other values in the process. I think that's kind of the key thing. That's an issue that I have with Rising, for example, the show with Crystal Ball and Saga.
Yeah.
There are some ways in which right populists agree with us. There are some narrow ways in which they agree on problems, but they very infrequently agree on solutions. And if we legitimize the entire, like, right populist demographic just because, like, war is bad, then we run the risk of, like, pushing them into a position where it's easier for them to do the other much worse stuff they want to do, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I actually stopped watching that, but it's more of a, she kind of big leagued me back when I was running for Congress, and that kind of just pissed me off. And so then I just sort of stopped watching their show.
Wait, big league?
Yeah, she big leagued me. You know what that is?
No,
I texted her. We have a mutual friend, and I texted her when I was running about having me on the show, you know, just get some promotion, whatever. Mm-hmm. And basically I got no, we're a little booked, but I'll try to mention you. And then I got like a brief mention when they were speaking to Andrew Yang, which, okay, that's fine. But just the response was very like, it didn't sit right with me. It felt like I'm in this position. You're not, I'm going to not and give you I don't know. I just didn't like it. It didn't feel good to me. And quite honestly, I don't need the USA Today of left-leaning politics on a daily basis.
Ooh. So, all right, I'm glad. Do you feel better after getting that out?
I think I do. I just
I do get it though. I do get it though. I do.
Yeah. It's hard because there's not that many. The people that I find to be credible primary sources are generally people that get slammed from the left for not going along with like corporate Dem policies. Like I watch The Gray Zone. To me, someone like Max Blumenthal is a real journalist. Those are people that are actually going into the field, doing reporting, getting information. You know, he interviewed Maduro. These are places to get information. And instead, what people do is they look at someone and said, oh, he's talking with so-and-so. We can't trust him. He's talking with them. That was like when Tulsi was called the Assad apologist because she said she would talk with him. Now, I have beef with Tulsi, but that's not one of the problems. You know, talking with our adversaries is necessary. It's not something that you should be criticizing people for reaching out to try to have communication.
Yeah.
And that is something that we get slammed for a lot.
My criticism, it's always comes down to not whether you're willing to talk with other people. Because I've talked to quite a few people who I disagree with ideologically. We've had open neo-Nazis on here several times. My main issue, I think, is when people, it seems like they're trying to force like a kind of legitimizing effect. I think Jimmy Dore does this to an extent too with this recent like Boogaloo Boy interview, you know, where it's like I think it's very possible to celebrate the things that you can ally with others on without coming across like you're playing defense for other things that they've done. And if we're really like coming down to the wire on political allies, we don't need to like dig up edge case like far right militia types who might agree with us on LGBTQ issues. There are tens of millions of Americans who are progressive but don't vote. Like there's a big group out there to pull from. A guy I really like is Sam Cedar. with the Majority Report, because
Sure.
yeah, I think he has a really level-headed approach to politics, and it was kind of like a very sensible dad vibe, Daddy Sam, as many people in my community say. And it's nice because it feels like a bit of a counterbalance to all of the incredibly hyperbolic, incredibly militaristic, and incredibly personality-driven political quote-unquote activism that goes on elsewhere. Because we have way too much of that, like way, 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 way too much of that. It's all about forming social groups, and people form, identities that best suit the expectations of whatever social group they're in. It makes it harder and harder to actually reach through to them.
Yeah, Sam gets crap too, but I will say this about him. Early on, he was one of the few people that reached out and wanted to give me a platform. And you remember things like that because what it shows you is that people that are in it for the cause, for the movement, for creating change versus people that are in it for their own careers. And that is something as a candidate that you see in so many different factions of people, and one of them is with the media. And the people that early on came to me and were like, how can we give you a platform? How can we help? How can, whatever. Those are the people that I see as caring about the mission that we're trying to do, which is create a social safety net and have people be able to have a living wage and the things that we're collectively fighting for. And the people that blew it off because maybe it wasn't sexy enough at the moment, to me, they lose credibility in whatever they're trying to do because clearly, we did a whole segment recently where we called out Jimmy on a whole bunch of shit that happened. He ghosted us completely.
Yeah, of course. There's no way Jimmy would have a real detractor talk with him publicly. There's no way.
Well, this is what happened. I mean, it's a long story, but the bottom line is he's friends with the progressive who ran against Debbie in 2016 and lost. And that man is a very angry and bitter individual who then started spewing a whole bunch of lies to Jimmy. And so Jimmy basically ghosted us throughout our entire campaign. So the same man who is screaming at AOC as a sellout because she's not doing exactly what he says and nothing is more important than healthcare, he purposefully ghosted the single candidate challenging the person that he spends half of his comedy bits railing about. He didn't mention us. He completely ghosted us. And he did it purposefully and intentionally. And he did it here live. He came here for a live show. He knew we were in the audience. He spent half the show bitching about my congressional representative. Didn't mention to anyone that I was even sitting there, and then had the previous candidate stand up and take a bow at the end of the show. Now, he did this purposefully to be a fuck you to me. And he did that because of stuff that he believed about me. And instead of recognizing that, oh, maybe I was told misinformation and I should check that out for myself, he doubles down. And so this is the kind of ridiculous nonsense and infighting that we have to deal with on the left. And so when people are like, oh, Jimmy's great, I'm like, I don't mind that he calls out people. I don't mind. We need to hold people accountable. I have no problem with that. Screaming at them and cursing them out, probably not the best way. But you don't get to stand there and be like, you're the pinnacle of giving a shit about healthcare when you ghost the only candidate that's fighting for it and you're down there where you can make a difference.
Yeah, not to mention, remember back when he had Tulsi Gabbard in his show and she said she wasn't pro M4A and he immediately made excuses for her. He didn't even wait for her to say why she wasn't pro M4A. He immediately started making excuses for her. He jumped in. He was like, oh, yeah, of course, because, electoral viability, an excuse he would never field from anyone else. He was pro AOC when AOC came on his platform. Later, he was anti AOC and complained about AOC not coming onto his platform. He decried her for ignoring the voice of the people because his YouTube show listeners were the people and she was ignoring them. He actually got mad at her for not attending his YouTube show episode, which was pretty impressive. He seems like a careerist to me, but I feel like Jimmy Dore is probably the most overt of them. I think there are other careerists. Wait, hold on. I was just about to engage in drama. No, never mind. I think
and it's not worth it. And the only reason that I even say it is because it's like people need to recognize that if you peel back a layer on anybody, you're going to find some hypocrisy if you would really look for it. And that's something that people think that you can't find. Everyone has their, what they're pushing and what their agenda is and what their mission is. And it's not necessarily all like, good.
True. Oh, I love the thumbnail, by the way. Did you construct the thumbnail for this video?
No, I didn't. John, did you do that? And John, say hi, John. John is a huge fan of yours, Vosh, actually. And one of the things that when he's our producer, and when he and I first started, when he came on and was working with us on the show, one of the things that we like sort of, jointly was celebrated was that we were both fans of yours. So
I'm blush over here. Well, hey, John, yeah. I'm genuinely flattered by your.
John is the person who did the thumbnail.
Well, I love the thumbnail. I'm holding my cats. You're holding your dogs. It looks great.
Here he is. He said, "I'm John, Jen's helper." He's so excited.
Hey, John. Knocked it out of the park with that one. Oh, wait, hold on. Wait, I remember what I was going to say. The careerism is an issue. I think what would help is if people were more honest with their ambitions. So I'm a live streamer. I'm pretty popular. When people like make jokes about me, like I'm just doing this for views or etc. Yeah, it's my job to get views. That's my job. Yeah. I'm open about that. Yeah, I run a YouTube account. Obviously I make money from it. Other people get paid for my work. Yeah, I want to make as much as possible and I want to be as large as possible. That's in everyone's interest if you like me, because I benefit, and also if you like my political agenda, that would probably be helpful there. But I feel like a lot of people want to posture as though they're these like completely ambivalent, like financially and business distanced sort of arbiters of progressivism. They do this in the YouTube scene a lot with lefties, where big leftist video essayists will hide the amount of money they make on their Patreon. And the reason they hide it is because they know that if it turns out they have a 6-figure income publicly, they'll get shit-talked for it because their audience will say, oh, now you're the wealthy bourgeois. Oh, it's a hypocrite. Oh, why would we support you, et cetera, et cetera. And it contributes to this really, really toxic culture. I think we should be open about it. We should celebrate the people in our community who are successful enough to become rich and prominent. And they should do good things with that money if they can. Obviously, we should hold them to standards, but there is no stigma, at least not in my mind, attached with being successful as a public advocate for socialism. Like, what standards are we setting if that's what we're gonna... If Karl Marx had been alive today and he sold Das Kapital and it went to be a bestseller, he would be a millionaire for that. Would we then be canceling him for that? I don't know. It's really weird.
Yeah. Look, remember when people came all out against Bernie because he owns 3 houses? And then I'm always like, if you only knew the content of that, how ridiculous it is. Yes, he has 3 houses. They have a house they've lived in for like 30 years, him and his wife. He has a place in DC. And then they have a lake house that I think her family bequeathed to them.
Yeah, it was inherited.
Right. It was inherited. Right. So it's like, those are his 3 houses. But yes, I could see how he's part of the mass corporatist problem.
There were people doing that, though. It wasn't just Republicans. Lefties bought into it. It's like, fuck. Do you want power? Like, my principle, by the way, is for the left to win. If I have a principle for the left and that principle involves us driving ourselves into a fucking ditch, that's not my principle anymore. My principle is winning, okay? And if winning involves having prominent, successful, and let's face it, wealthy advocates for socialism, we should hold them to standards, but that's not negative in and of itself.
Yeah, I agree. Look, and with that being said, people should definitely subscribe to us on YouTube because we are growing and we are trying to monetize. GenCore is the name of our volunteer organization. Locally, we do stuff volunteer, like we work in our garden, we do cleanups. We used to do veterans nursing home, but COVID shut that shit down. So like there's certain stuff that we do, and that is something that I am trying to build up. And yeah, I'd love donations for that. It's, we're really trying to make a difference here.
Shameless.
To change things around.
Guys, here, look, it's generational change on YouTube. Get the fuck over there. Go.
Yeah, it's generational change on YouTube, and we need watch hours. That's the thing. Like, I'd love to be, someone just said you should monetize. I'm working on it. We need to get 4,000 watch hours before I can even have a merch store.
I'm really sorry. I'm leaving you the audience for just a minute. I can hear one of my cats screaming, and she's probably...
Oh, okay. All right, good. So hello, Voss's audience. This is kind of interesting. So if any of you, and look, I know that you're into a very intense level of really intellectual discourse with Vosh. I'm not saying you get that on our show, but it's definitely a nice little, it could be a nice little accessory to your YouTube watching programs. You could add it to your little library. We get some good guests. Is that cat inside out?
Okay, I'm back. Hello.
Is that cat inside out?
What this cat is fucking stupid. She was just screaming outside my door because she wants attention.
Oh my God, that cat.
Yeah, it's a Sphinx cat, a very feisty one at that.
I could see that. Oh my God. How old is that cat?
I think she's like 6 to 7 months old, so she's pretty darn young. Can you chill for like 1 second so I can give you a good... help me. You're here. Look there. You ugly fucking.
Oh my God! Look,
Wah.
Lulu. Look.
Ooh. There we go. There we go. Ooh. I know she looks like a skittish brat, but she's actually incredibly affectionate. She just doesn't like being held.
I have the opposite problem.
So I see. Hello.
That's a very needy dog. She's the epitome of white power. That's what I tell people. She's Lou is all about white power. But anyway, I appreciate so much your time. I do.
I'd be happy to talk in the future, actually, if we could.
Yeah, like you found this relatively palatable.
I really I enjoy the brief departures that I get from what feels like an ever-escalating series of tragedies that defines the American political experience, you know?
Yeah, well, look, you and I, for the most part, would probably agree on more things than not. I mean, like, I really would, I think when I first came on, somebody was thinking this was some sort of a debate. I'm like, first of all, I don't debate. I don't want to. It's not something I'm into. I don't feel the need to do it. It's just not my thing. And that's fine. I've done that enough. I'm a litigator. I don't need to spend my time arguing with people for fun. But I appreciate watching it done masterfully. So I like it when you do it. Somebody needs to do it.
No.
Somebody needs to fight with the ignoramus.
You know what's been really frustrating? It's been harder and harder to get debates lately because my reputation precedes me a little.
So what's happening?
Initially, when I was at like 10 or 20,000 subs, it was really easy to get debates. Everyone would debate me. But at past a certain point, all these big like conservative channels like Sargon of Akkad or Styx Hexenhammer, they started making videos like, I'm not going to debate breadtube grifters anymore. And they mean me, because I'm the only person here who debates. And they're like, I'm done with this, And it's funny because Sargon made that video and then later went on to debate Destiny. So I know it's me he's talking about. But
right.
I think
I never heard of either of those people until you. And then I looked them up. Like I don't know who either of I
you
don't
were
know
better before.
I was better off.
You were better off before. Your life is worse now that you know. Yeah.
And when people donate subs to you, what is that? Because I know you're not getting like sub sandwiches. I know that there's not like subs. I know it must be subscribers. I know that in theory. But like, then when you told me you're not on Twitch anymore, I don't know what is all that?
My website has a custom monetary system for people to support me more if they want. If they sub, they get a colored name in chat and a couple more emotes to use.
Okay. Is that the little dragon that comes up? Vosh bad.
Yeah. I drew that. It's a little crested gecko, which is a pet that we have, and it's usually either a monetary donation or a site subscription.
That's cool. So you do that, and you do, but you also do. You have a Patreon also.
I do, but to be honest, I don't do anything with the Patreon. I made the Patreon because I figured one of these days I might get booted off YouTube, so I should have a backup. But so far, so good. So. We'll see.
You're just flying by the seat of your pants. Hey, can I ask you, how old are you?
I'm 26.
That's pretty impressive. I'm old enough to be your mother.
You honestly, you look like my age, I think, because I look older and you look younger.
And I gotta tell you, well, okay, first of all, facial hair will age you just because you have facial hair. That's just what it does. Your viewers are so nice. Like for every Tim Pool viewer that called me a Karen, I got someone on here telling me that I look great. So I'm very appreciative of your people.
I'm trying to be impartial here, but yeah, I think you look fantastic. I think it was very mean what those people did.
They are so mean. There's so many mean people. And I'm so nice. Like it's just, they're so mean. And my partner / campaign manager often thinks it's just people that are jealous. As soon as you start to do well, they have to try to tear you down.
Yes. Yeah. No. Yeah. I know that a lot of the antagonism that I get is from people who resent the fact that I'm one of the representatives of the online left now, which is pretty crazy too, because just 2 years ago I started my channel, I did get up here, I think, at a pretty decent clip, but frankly, the online left needed a change. Super insular, hyper progressive video essays are fantastic and I like them. But that can't be everything we have. That's not enough,
Yeah. No, I appreciate it. We could do this again. Look, and as long as you don't mind leeching some of your subs, sucking subs off of your channel. But we need all the help we can get.
You can suck all the subs you like off my channel. And I encourage everyone watching to go and subscribe to Generational Change, except it's a J instead of a G.
Yes, it's with a J. That I know. It's kind of clever.
I like it.
My partner came up with it. And when I say partner, I mean work partner. I know people of your generation refer to their significant others as partners, which, by the way, has gotten me in trouble before because I once was talking to someone that I assumed was someone's life partner, and no, it was their business partner. So this is why people like me, we need context and nuance. Like if you were to introduce me to someone while you're standing next to them, I'll be able to see the distinction. But if you're referring to someone in third person as your partner, I have no idea what that means anymore.
They could also be like a cowboy or desperado that you work together with to.
Well, and especially, aren't you in Tucson? Aren't you in Tucson?
No, I'm in Washington.
Why did I think you were in Arizona? Were you ever in Arizona?
No, I'm afraid not.
How come I thought you were in Tucson?
I was in California before here.
No, where in Cali are you from?
I grew up in Beverly Hills.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, not a big cowboy ranching department, but
no, my husband's from Calabasas.
Calabasas. Wait, where is that?
It's in between the Valley and Malibu, basically.
Oh, okay. Oh, wait, no,
it's where the Kardashians live.
I think I've driven through here before.
Calabasas is beautiful. It is. I mean, it's beautiful and it's really nice. I'm not huge on SoCal. Like, it's not my thing. It's basically got all the things that I can't stand about Miami, but more. Like, it is bigger. There's more of it. And there's too many people.
Yeah, so Los Angeles is a gigantic, disgusting shithole, but there are lots of nice little places in LA, and there are lots of nice little towns around Southern California. The problem is, like, it all looks amazing when it's a clear day and you like take a picture of it, like with nobody in the way. But then when the city actually starts moving, you get all like the pollution and all the homeless people, and it all stacks up. And there are so many unaddressed problems in California on a state level.
Yeah, I mean, really the only place I've been in California where I would ever consider living would be the San Diego area. Weather-wise, it's the best. I mean, weather-wise, it's bad. But LA area is just insane to me. I just can't deal with the traffic. I can't, there's just too many people. There's just too many people.
I got dumped in San Diego once. That's my main memory of the...
Oh, that's sort of unfortunate.
It's okay. It happened a long time ago.
Could you possibly have been dumped in your 26-year existence?
Only a few. But that one stung the most, so that's the happy memory I carry.
Was it at like a particular important point, like at the Del Coronado, or at like a particular, or at the San Diego Zoo?
I was at the border, actually, like on the border.
Oh, on the border. That's harsh.
Yeah, we both headed north afterwards, though. Nobody fled south, so we're
okay.
It wasn't an escapade. It wasn't a heist,
Well, I so appreciate you doing this. I'll probably see a nice little boost, which is really nice. And your viewers are and I also figured that the majority of your audience would be amenable to me as opposed to, come at me like I'm Karen. I'm not Karen. And somebody on here just said that we were both raised rich. I would like to tell you that that's absolutely not true. I'm the first person in my family that went to college. My parents are working people. My poppy was a mailman, and my dad graduated from high school and became a court reporter so that he didn't have to go to college. And he married my mom, and we grew up in a small little apartment. I never wanted for anything, no, but I never grew up rich. So I resent that. And I was raised by very working class people. So I don't subscribe to being raised. Now I live well now. I am married to a urologist. We've been together since my senior year in college. I typed up his applications for med school on a typewriter. I worked while he was in med school. I worked and went to law school, and now I live very well. I don't feel bad about it. I enjoy my life, and that's just the way it is.
I haven't done anywhere near these things. But the reflexive wealth shaming. Sorry, that sounds like such a dumb thing. When I think of wealth shaming, I think of making fun of Jeff Bezos because he's not ending homelessness in America, But sometimes it's like, you grew up X, Y. People make fun of me for being born or growing up in Beverly Hills. My parents weren't wealthy. I grew up like middle or upper middle class, I was the first person to graduate college in my family, or at least in my immediate family. But I like the problems that are caused in America are certainly not being caused by people in the tiny 2-bedroom apartments that I was raised in. And that's not the demographic of wealth that I think we should be aiming our antagonism towards.
No, and it's unproductive. Someone keeps asking me if I know Alden, and I don't. So
stop! Don't listen to them.
Is that a troll?
It is an in
I
joke.
see a couple of my trolls are on here, and I just ignore those people. But I don't obviously can't distinguish your trolls.
It's an in joke in my community. Here, hold on. For the goodbye, let me bring my cat. Okay, I'll be.
All right. But you guys, I'm going to hear all right, Alden is a thing. I'm going to hear what Alden is, and then we're going to wrap it up. I appreciate all of you guys. Check out our show. I have some really great interviews. We had Nina Turner on a couple of weeks ago. Last night we spoke with Carter. He's running for governor of Virginia. So we have a really good backlog. Wait, what's the cat's name? What's his name?
Oh, this is Pigeon.
It doesn't look like a squab to me.
She cocks her head like a bird.
How many cats do you have?
Just 2. This one and I think a half Maine Coon, a really big cat.
Okay, so you've got one with fur and one without.
Yes. This one is at a disadvantage during the cat fights, you know?
That one is an advantage in terms of me letting it in my bed.
Yes. Ooh, baby.
How do you feel about dogs?
Oh, I like dogs. I'm not a very high energy person, and I hate going outside. So
yeah,
cats.
You know what? I actually Googled before I got dogs. I Googled lazy ass dogs. I actually Googled lazy ass dogs, and 12 breeds came up. Because I know I'm lazy as shit, and I don't want to go out running with the dogs and throwing the frisbee and doing all that. So I specifically bought breeds that are lazy.
Good. Honestly, good. Well, there's nothing worse than an energetic dog that doesn't have an owner who can take it out, you know?
This is the thing. People buy dogs because they think it's cute, and then they don't want to put in the work. They don't understand the breed, and then they end up thinking that there's something wrong with the dog.
Yeah, there are a ton of worry. Dogs get really depressed if you don't let them out, too. Like, they get really sad, and then the people will Google, why is my dog not licking my face when I put my face in my dog's face, you know?
Yeah. Yes. So people, if you don't want to put in the work, Google lazy ass dogs. That's what I recommend. And you will get a nice variety. There were 12 on the list at the time. And that was that. But so we could do this again sometime. I'd love to chat anytime.
Absolutely.
You know?
I really appreciate you coming on. You've expressed that the feeling is mutual, which is good. Because mutual affirmation.
Did you know who I was? Did you know who I was before I reached out?
No, I follow you on Twitter for a little while past that. No, I knew you.
Okay. Because I don't like always control the Twitter. That's my partner. I'm more Facebook. It's always my sentiment. It's not that it's like a Cyrano de Bergerac thing. Like we're on the same page with our policy and what we're trying to do. But I'm not techie. Like
that's fine. My partner manager manages my Facebook, so it's reciprocal.
Okay,
right. Yeah, we handle the equal and opposite halves.
Okay, so because I don't want people to think that it's like fraudulent. It isn't. I mean, it's he represents me. I just can't be everywhere.
I appreciate you coming on. Your dogs are lovely, and you are as well. And I hope you have a phenomenal day.
My dad wants to know if maybe you can introduce me to Kyle. All right, we'll get to that another time. Thanks, Dad. All right. Thank you so much, Vosh. It was so nice talking to you.
Have a good one.
You too. Bye. Bye.